Hello guys, welcome to mobile application development, and in this video we are going to learn how to create new Android project. So this is our Android Studio. And we will go to file, new project. When you select a new project, we want to create a new application, but for what? Like for which device we want to create? Do we want to create from a phone and tablets? Do we want to create for Wear OS? There are tons of templates for television, car, XR. So we'll select phone and tablet. We want to build our application that should work inside a phone and a tablet. Now we have so many templates available, what each template does and which one to select. So we want to go with empty activity with this compose logo and not empty views activity. When we use this compose logo, we have to create our code in Kotlin and draw our UI using compose library. And when we select empty views activity, we are going to choose the language whether to go with Java or Kotlin. But when it comes to views, our designing will be XML. Same thing, wherever you see views, that means you are going to design in XML, and if you see this logo, that means you are going to design in compose. So we'll select empty activity, click next, and then we'll give it a name. So what application we are going to build? Let's say we are going to build a calculator. So I'll say calculator application. So this is the package name. Package name is the identifier. Also it will contain your code base, all your source code. Then we have a minimum SDK. Minimum SDK 24 is actually covering 99% of the devices in the world. So your application can be installed in the 99% of the devices. But if somebody is using Android 6, they can't install it. And if somebody in future, if Google releases Android 17, 18, they can still install this device. That's why it's 99% of the devices. Now, build configuration language, whether you want to go with Groovy or Kotlin DSL. Traditionally, we used to use Groovy DSL, and now we want to use Kotlin DSL. And I'll click finish. And your Android new project is being created, as you can see. Now, what we want to do, we have to wait till this new project downloaded its dependency. As you can see, the build is running, and if I click here, it is downloading all the dependencies that is needed. Once the project Gradle build is done, you can see in the project navigator bar, you will see Android package. Build one, where you can see how the sync is progressing. If there is any issue with the build, you will see the errors here, and then you have to read and fix them. Then we have App Insight for quality to check the vitals on the Play Store. Then we have Logcat, where we can debug and check and print statement. Then we have problems, if there is any problem in the code, whether it is a variable name, declaration, any issue, the file problem will be highlighted here. And then we have the terminal, you can run your anti-gravity or Cloud code. And then finally we have a GitHub version control. You can log in with the GitHub repository and you are good to go. Now we'll minimize this. Yes, I trust this folder. And then your anti-gravity login is done. You can run the prompt and it will generate the code for you. Now what we want to do, we want to learn about the project architecture, what each folder does, what each file is used for. We want to know the internals of these folders and files. So now we have to wait till we download all the dependencies. So as you can see in the build, we have downloaded 98 MB data. Now it is started syncing, and you can see 176 MB data is downloaded. So every time you create a new project, this much data is downloaded. And as you can see, 272 MB data is downloaded, Gradle Sync is finished, and we can see our Android in the navigator. Now I'll just hide this build tool. And now first let's understand, before we jump into this, let's understand what is manifest, what is Kotlin plus Java, and what is resource and Gradle script. So let's go one by one. Android manifest is the file where you write configurations. For example, how many screens do you have, what all application component you have. So for now inside my application I have only one activity. That's it. If you have multiple components, so whatever broadcast receiver, services, activities, everything you have to mention. So if you have multiple screens, you will be mentioning multiple activities inside the manifest. So for example, if you have a permission, that permission you need to declare. If whatever capabilities of your app, you need to declare it. And then we have Kotlin plus Java and your package name where your source code is going to be present. You have to write all your source code inside this package. Then we have Android test. So if you want to write automated test cases, you will write it here. If you want to write unit test cases, you will write it here. Unit test cases test the business logic, and automation UI test cases will automatically turn on your app, launch your app, enter the inputs, and click on login button, for example, and it will test whether the login is successful or not. All those test case scenarios you can write. Now, then we have UI theme inside this package. This where we can define our own colors. So by default, purple color is defined, and then we have created a theme. By default, Google Android Studio will give you this theme, dark color scheme, light color scheme, and a schema option. So this all these options you can cover if you want to comment this. And then we have a calculator theme. Inside this calculator theme, we have a dynamic color option. So if your app is running in the, if your device is running in the dark mode, it will automatically pick dark scheme color. Then we have MainActivity, which is the launcher activity of the screen. This activity will be launched when the application is launched, which we have defined inside the manifest file here. Now we have drawables to keep our icons. We have mipmap to keep our images. So I have 6 different formats of the image. This is the launcher image. Then we have values where you can write your colors again in XML, and your string file. So if you want to build your application in Arabic or any other language, you can simply use this another string file and load it. Otherwise it will be very hard if you write hard-coded string inside the UI. Then we have themes. Again, this is the view themes, which is we are not going to use. Then what we have XMLs, we have some rules, network configuration rules, backup rules, how our app should behave, how our app should communicate with another application or over the network. So all these rules we have defined. This is our Android app architecture, files and folders, and then we have Gradle script. What is Gradle? Gradle is a software that actually compiles your code and prepare your build and convert your source code into a final APK that can be installed. Now we have project level configuration where you can configure your project. So my project configured is for Android applications and Kotlin Compose. Then next we have module level app. Module level app, we are using the plugins for Android and Kotlin, as well as we have Android configuration. So namespace, this is the package name. My application will be compiled against 36.1 and my default config. So whenever the compile code in the version is 36.1, means Android 16 or 17, so my compiled code, my code will be compiled against this API level, against a specific operating system. Then my target SDK is 36. It should be same as compiled SDK, but it can, my application can still work in 37 or Android 18 or the future devices. Then we have minimum SDK 24, that it should not be installed below Android 7. This is the application ID as well, where the app is uniquely identified on the Play Store. We have version code and version name. Version name, what users see. Version code, how developers maintain the versions of the applications. Then we have build type, release build. We have is minified enabled, which is false. So when we are releasing the application, we have to make it true and add some rules inside the proguard optimize.txt file. Now we have compile options. We are using Java version 11 for source and target compatibility, and build features compose is true. If build features compose is false, we won't be able to write our compose UI logic. And then we have dependencies. So when you create a new project, these are the dependencies that are mentioned. So Android is downloading all these dependencies. So if you want to use a third-party dependencies, for example, if you go to Google, so this is an image loading library, and if you want to import this library in your Android project, you have to use dependency and paste it here. Simple as that. And we are good to go. You will sync now, and it will start downloading the glide library in your project. And as you can see, this is downloaded, and it is as easy to download a library in Android. Then we have Gradle Properties, where we can define how much RAM it should consume. So here it is using 2 GB RAM. And Gradle Wrapper Properties, where we have distribution for 9.3.1 as a Gradle build. Libs version is basically a catalog version where we are maintaining all the version files so that we don't have to mention anything in the dependency section. For example, if you press enter and press change to 5.9, no, I want to replace with a new category library declaration. So I'll just hit enter, and you will see the code is now changed. libs.glide. I'll sync now, and this syntax is actually moved inside the libs.toml file. Here you can see glide 5.0.5. Now if you click here, after the project is synced successfully, this error will also go, and as you can see, the error is gone. So this is the versioning part of the catalog file. Then we have local properties, where we have defined our SDK, and if you are using C++ in your code, you can define your NDK, native development kit. And then we have settings. So here you have defined your project related settings. What should your project will be called? So right now you can see it is calculated. If I change the name, here the name will be changed. And that's it. This was the introduction. Hope you guys like it, enjoy it, share with your friends. See you guys next time.